Welcome to the Calder Farmstead.
Now the Ice Hawks back out to center in transition. Carlson with Quenneville 2-on-1. Right with Carlson, Quenneville scores!
Here's a chance for Carrick. Fighting scores! Off the face-off! Up in Zeminger. Pulled back to Werenski. Has it. Shoots one. Bounces off a man. 5 seconds left. Werenski. Another jam on the shot. Turning and firing. They go! Scores! They score! Now they catch each other. They both go right over the top. Matching rights to one another. McDermott gets the helmet off of Cassie.
And now with 9 minutes gone in overtime, the Bears breaking out right side with Bear. Looks like cutting to the net. Perrault scores!
And here are your hosts, Cece and Sean.
Hello and greetings from the Mile High city of Denver, Colorado.
And Los Angeles, California.
California dreaming. Welcome to the Calder Farmstead podcast, episode number 55 for Saturday, October 16th, 2021. If you were hoping for a podcast featuring studies on how groundwater irrigation could be stressing the San Andreas Fault, we are not going to be much help. This is an American Hockey League podcast, and my name is CC Hockley, the AHL editor of Full Press Hockey.
And I'm Sean O'Brien from StatsTrack, the AHL's only analytics guy.
And as always, we thank you for tuning in with us.
If you're new to hearing CC and I talk about hockey, we're going to preview the last of the Pacific Division for the AHL in the upcoming 21-22 season. We both watch a lot of AHL games, and I'm going to talk about what we see when we watch the film, as well as use some stats to help us break it down. If that's new to you, you might want to head over to our podcast feed or YouTube channel, wherever you're listening to us from, and check out episode 0. It's a short primer on some of the stats we're going to be talking about, as well as how we view what's important on the ice. So if you're new to some more of the advanced hockey stats terms, like the point shares model, or new hockey terms like controlled zone entries, go check that out, so you better be able to pick up what we're putting down. I promise it's not that nerdy or technical. It's only 20 minutes. And let's be honest, you wasted 20 minutes today checking out a 6-second voice clip of Robert Pattinson as the Batman. You'll never get that time back. So next time, why not spend a little more time talking hockey with us?
And if you like it or not, he is vengeance. He is the knight. He is the Batman. So I'm sure he'll put that vampire sparkly glitter aside as well.
Oh, please, God.
Anyway, all right. This is the last batch of the season previews. It is always a gauntlet when we cover season previews. We've only been doing it for 2 years, but we're at the end. We're at the tail end. And last but not least, we've got 3 teams from the Pacific Division. And today we're going to be previewing the Ontario Reign, the San Diego Gulls, and the Bakersfield Condors. So without further ado, let's dig in. Let's start with Ontario. The Ontario Reign, their head coach is John Wroblewski. He is entering his 2nd season. 2021 record for the Reign, 17-19-4-0. That was 6th place out of 7 teams in the Pacific Division last year. Not so good. Affiliation for 2021-22 is the Los Angeles Kings in the NHL. And games scheduled, we're in the Pacific Division, so of course, for one more year, 68 games. Additions for the Reign this season, Braden Burke at forward, Nikita Pavlichev also at forward, TJ Tynan coming over from the Colorado Eagles and his AHL MVP season last year, and goaltender Garrett Sparks joining Ontario. Subtractions, a few more subtractions than last year. Mikey Isamont, Littleton, Colorado native, heading out. Boko Amama traded. Matt Luff. Mark Alt going to the San Jose organization, Sharks and Barracuda. Daniel Brickley, Cole Holtz, Troy Grosnick, JF Berube heading to the Columbus Blue Jackets organization, Blaine Byron, Mike Amadio, Devontae Smith-Pelly, and Blaine Byron. So those are your additions and subtractions for the Reign this season. Let's talk the guys who stuck around and those new additions. Let's talk forwards first and foremost. It's worth noting here that Akil Thomas is on the IR, the injured reserve, to start the season. He is recovering from a serious shoulder surgery, and his timetable to recover has been rumored to be around January at this point. So unfortunately, he will not be a part of this preview. But someone who will be a part of this preview is Martin Feark, the man who shall always lay claim to a 109.2 mile per hour slap shot in the hardest shot competition. Feark unsurprisingly helped generate offense in close to a point per game clip for his 3rd consecutive season in 2021. Unfortunately, Feark was injured during the 2021 offseason, then re-aggravated a previous groin injury during the first contest of the 2021 season, which explains the only 14 games played last year. Coming into his 8th AHL campaign, the 28-year-old still has the ability to blast the puck, obviously, and crash the net looking for goals. Feark was also found driving the play, leading the rush, and gaining the zone for a really young Reagan squad last season. He also set up a lot of teammates in tight space, showcasing his above-average hands and puck movement. His lackluster skating and defensive ability will continue to keep him from sticking at the NHL level. His improved sense and vision will keep him in the top 6 in Ontario and more than likely get in a few games with Los Angeles as well. Next up, we have TJ Tynan. As mentioned, the 2021 AHL MVP and finalist for our 2021 Best Forward Award, TJ Tynan joins the Reign this season. One of the best playmakers in the league, Tynan's hockey IQ makes him a certain threat at the centerman position. Tynan is also an effective PKer as well, so don't be surprised if you see him in a top 6 even strength role, a first-line power play role, and a first-line PK role, all 3 of those this year. He's a veteran similar to Feark, only in tenure, with Tynan coming in at age 29 and entering his 9th season. He's always visible on the ice, an energetic player, and always standing out. The biggest knock against Tynan is his size, 5'8" and 165 pounds, and that makes physical battles an issue at times. This has also hampered extended periods of time up in the NHL during his career, a clear compliment to the shooting acumen of Feark. It's a distinct possibility to see Tynan in top 6 minutes alongside of him. Next, we have Adam Johnson. After 3 seasons with the Pittsburgh/Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins, a change in scenery did Adam Johnson some good last year. Splitting time between the SHL and the AHL, Johnson returned stateside to play with the Reign in April after 21 games abroad, with 6 goals and 5 assists in 14 games played for Ontario. Johnson has translated his formidable shot, puck skills, breakout speed, and overall versatility into timing breakaways perfectly, increasing chances for the Reign on odd man rushes. His defensive prowess is apparent from his impressive poke-checking ability and is a reliable hand on the half wall during the power play. It's been chronicled that the mental aspect of the game has sometimes gotten to Johnson, as his lack of confidence has directly tied into his dry spells on the score sheet. He's also just a touch bigger than Tynan at 6 foot even and 174 pounds, suffering the same fate of getting pushed around at times. His tenacity on loose pucks and proof time and again that he fast, Johnson is yet another forward in his late 20s that brings a lot to the table for the Reign's top 6 forwards. Next in line, we have Braden Burke. He was acquired in the trade that sent Boko Imama and Cole Holtz to Arizona. Burke pivots from 3 full seasons with Tucson over to former division foe in Ontario. Are you sensing a theme with smaller-sized players with above-average offensive talent? Because yes, Burke falls into that category as well. Just like Tynan, Burke's natural bent is creating plays and assisting on goals. And yes, he fast as well. However, Burke seemed to have lost a step and produced just a half a point per game as opposed to a point per game clip just a year prior. He had only 1 goal in 2021 after landing in the top 25 league-wide for scores in 1920, as his 19.4 shooting percentage dipped drastically to 2.9% in just a year's time. That's needless to say, he is due for a bounce-back season in goals and in the overall points column. Burke will most likely start the season in a middle 6 forward place for Ontario with power play minutes on the second unit. Samuel Fagemo, a good rookie season for Fagemo, but I think a leap forward is coming this year, as I don't think 10 goals and 8 assists in 32 games accurately captures the skill set of Fagemo. While his skill set is high-end, what impresses me most about him is his work ethic. Fagemo is a tireless forechecker who can separate puck carries from the puck with a body check, recover the puck, and get to business. Offensively, he's got a skill set that doesn't lack for raw tools. He's got very good puck skills and can absolutely rip shots. His playmaking vision and hockey IQ very much still had junior hockey elements to it, where he tried to take on defenders one-on-one instead of utilizing teammates and space. Defensively, he's okay, but occasionally lacks the awareness to make the right play. I think a big step forward is coming here, as he has the skills to produce the top 6 level, to produce at the top 6 level, rather. But it's a matter of whether he puts it together this season. Alex Turcotte, the number 5 overall pick for the Kings in 2019, was one of many young guns, as we dubbed them here in the Calder Farmstead, the Black and Silver Bandits on Ontario last season. 6 goals and 15 assists in 32 games was a solid outing in 2021. This year should be a breakout season for the Island Lake, Illinois native, though. And hey, there's a lot of good things to like about Turcotte's game. Good hockey IQ, two-way ability, good puck skills, solid playmaking ability with flashes of high-end elements, and a decent shooting ability. But his standout attribute was mentioned too by his video coach from college in our interview with her earlier this offseason, Emily Engelnatsky. It's his compete level. He's always buzzing around the ice and putting pressure on puck carriers, winning battles, but not getting lost, just relentlessly pursuing the puck. There were definitely moments last year, though, where you could see the speed of the game getting the best of him, and he struggled to process the game and make safe plays instead of setting up scoring chances because the game was moving too fast for him. I think that got the better of him as the season went on, but it's something to watch for sure. Turcotte should slot in the top 6 for the Reign and get power play and penalty kill time all season long. Another Kings first rounder, this time at 20th overall from 2018, Rasmus Kupari has been described as dangerous with puck possession and always a threat on the offensive side of the puck. Kupari's skating is well above average, his hands are soft, and his on-ice vision is outstanding. He can hit seams and make creative plays with the puck with defenders on his back as well. He does have a fair share of things to work on, though. He tries to lean into one-on-one aspects of European hockey a bit too much. His effort isn't in question, but needs to be more consistent. Turnovers can be a problem, as at times he'd try to force the play instead of being patient and working for other opportunities. Kupari should also be a top 6 option for the Reign this season, but man, that depth chart is getting full, and I could see him being the odd man out on the third line. Jarrett Anderson Dolan, a surprise entry here as he spent a good portion of the last season with the Kings. JAD's speed sticks out immediately. He has NHL caliber wheels. Even better is that he has NHL caliber puck skills to go with it and can deke through defenders at full speed. He is definitely an asset in transition. However, that's where his NHL skills in his skill set seem to end. His playmaking vision isn't the best, and he's not anything more than an average shooter. Defensively, he's solid and puts work in 5v5 and on the penalty kill. I think he ends up all over the lineup for the Reign, but he should be paired with slower line mates who can't do what he can through the neutral zone. Lastly, for the forwards core, Tyler Madden. Madden only made it into 14 games last season after a broken collarbone ended his time in Ontario earlier than expected. By his own admission, it was a lost season. When healthy, there's more to like about Madden's game than the actual Madden game. Boom! Side note, EA Sports is awful. Don't give them your money. Back to Tyler Madden, though. He's got high-quality puck skills, but is a much better shooter than playmaker, as he doesn't find teammates in dangerous areas as often as you'd like. His defensive game is solid as well, as he has the attention to detail and active stick you like to see from an in-zone defender, especially as a centerman. He also put on 30 pounds and is up to 180, which is, I'm assuming, isn't from his gym, and assuming isn't from is from the gym. Sorry, and not regular meals at Eureka and Lazy Dog. Sorry about that. That's awesome for him, as he plays down low, inside game, and needs all the muscle he can get. So, yeah, 30 pounds of muscle, that's a solid improvement for Tyler Madden this offseason. All right, so that's the forward core for the Reign. Let's talk defense with Mr. Sean O'Brien.
I mean, we began and end with Cameron Gaunce, as he managed to turn in a solid season despite Ontario being a mess defensively. He's still got it at 31. And by it, I mean an offensive more than defensive game, as his offensive skill set is very solid. He has good puck skills and playmaking vision. He has a high hockey IQ and reads the play well and finds moments to activate off the blue line and strike. His skating is solid, but he doesn't have a high top speed, but he's fast enough to move the puck through the neutral zone and threaten to beat forecheckers with his feet. Defensively, he's very aggressive in trying to break up plays in the neutral zone and occasionally takes too big a risk and gets burned the other way. In zone, he's not the best and doesn't engage or scan for threats as much as he should when the play is away from him. He's still a solid puck mover who can create offense, and that's valuable. Gunn should be a top 4 defenseman this season who gets power play time, but I wouldn't rush to put him out there on the penalty kill. There's an easy nickname for Jordan Spence. It's MacGyver, and it fits his skill set perfectly. If you're unfamiliar with MacGyver, that's fair. It's a show from the 80s and 90s. He's a character that basically tries to help people and gets into these intense action movie-like scenarios where he has to find a way to save the day and has to make do with whatever's laying around. His genius-level intellect that basically improvises constantly with duct tape, dental floss, and toothpicks to manufacture solutions to crazy problems. MacGyver doesn't have a lot of raw tools to work with, but he's smart and quick, and he finds a way. That's Jordan Spence's game. He's not a great skater. He doesn't have a great shot or puck skills, but my boy is wicked smart. He has very good playmaking vision and hockey IQ and scraps together his lackluster physical tools to attack with precise timing that makes him effective. He doesn't have the speed to lead the rush, but he's that second wave trailer who catches a pass and shoots from a dangerous area. He's not going to deke through guys, but he can get guys to bite on looking at a winger to pass to and then skate the other way untouched. Defensively, he's the same guy. He's not physical. He's not going to win battles, but he gets turnovers a lot with well-timed poke checks and stick lifts. Jordan Spence does what he does because of how big his hockey brain is, not because of his natural talents. And I have a lot of respect for that. I'm hoping for a good season with him somewhere probably in the middle pairing, maybe a little bit of PK time. Jakub Movirara was impressive last season and found offense that I wasn't particularly expecting. His playmaking took a step forward this past season. However, I think he's more useful as a defensive defenseman as his offensive skill set clocks in around average. He has an average hockey IQ and his puck skills and shooting talent are around AHL league average. His skating, though, is below average, and it's probably why he doesn't join rushes or come off the blue line that often. Defensively, that's where I see his value. He's solid and uses his hockey IQ and not his skating to kill rush plays. And while he throws his body around, he does so with purpose and separates player from puck instead of just trying to bulldoze them. He'll likely fit into the middle pair and play PK minutes for the Reign this season. Sean Dursey is an offensive defenseman with a solid skill set. He has above average puck skills and playmaking vision with his hockey. And with his hockey IQ, can make some subtle but smart plays to keep the ice tilted in the Reign's direction. Those are things that often coaches notice, but if you're just a fan tuning into the game on AHL TV, that might not jump out right off the page to you. He's excellent in puck management and has a lot of poise under pressure, where he won't just make the right play. He'll make sure to pull defenders to him before he does so. His skating is in the neighborhood of average, but it's not quite there. It's average adjacent. Defensively, he's lacking and often chases puck carriers to a fault and gets out of position. He's still a top 4 guy, but I think he'd be best partnered with a guy like Movirara. Helge Grans. Grans' game is backed by his skating. He's not the fastest, but he has speed and solid acceleration and hits top speed quickly. He has solid raw tools as well. He has good puck skills and playmaking vision. His hockey IQ isn't elite, but it's high. If he plays an aggressive style that occasionally gets him in trouble, as he'll force plays that aren't there and make turnovers that just can't happen. Defensively, he's good at defending puck carriers one-on-one, but gets caught puck watching when he's not actively engaged with the play. It's hard to say where he's going to fall on the depth chart this season, but middle pairing minutes aren't out of the question, especially if he can tighten up some of those turnovers. Those are the defensemen that we think are going to be big impact players for the Reign this year. We could go on more, but this is a good place to stop and pivot to goalies. Cece, tell me about the voodoo that they will do.
Well, first we'll start with the newcomer, Garrett Sparks. And if there were an ideal mentor for a young goalie, I'd want someone who's been through the highs, the lows, and everywhere in between. We're talking NHL starts, AHL starts, ECHL starts, you name it. Someone whose game has evolved and improved over time, but still puts the work in. There are a couple of goalies who come to mind for that role, and Garrett Sparks is near the top of that list. His game has evolved a lot from being a pure athlete to refining his technique and puck tracking to be a more complete goalie. I doubt he'll ever get to the NHL starter that Leafs Nation hoped for the few seasons ago, that he was with the Toronto organization, rather, but a goalie who put in useful NHL starts and a Calder Cup as a 7th round pick ain't too shabby. Regardless, Sparks should be the starter here, as Villalta did not look ready for serious action last season. And speaking of Matthew Villalta, his game is based on his athleticism and an above-average frame. He's able to explode post to post and make those tough saves. And like most athletic goaltenders, when he's on and dialed in, he's tough to beat because he has the raw tools that other goalies just don't. However, his movement looks busy and nervous at times. He also doesn't track the puck that well and gets beat on pucks he's late to identify. He's also struggled with consistency throughout his career. And last season didn't do him any favors in that compartment because, as we know, 2021 was a bit inconsistent in many ways. Hopefully Sparks can provide some mentorship or at minimum, a role model role to help his game progress. Those are the 3 categories of the individual players for the Ontario Reign. Let's talk outcomes. Let's talk best case outcome with Sean.
Last year, we nicknamed the Reign's young, highly touted prospects as the Black and Silver Bandits, as they had the skill to run and gun in exciting fashion. That didn't exactly come into fruition, which is why it's time to double down. The Black and Silver Bandits can get riding here. This season could be fun in the Pacific Division, where the middle is wide open. If they get leaps forward in development and Sparks stays solid, they finish with 78 points for a 57.35% points percentage and a 2nd place in the division. That's the best case scenario. That's the ceiling. CC, tell me about the floor.
Well, the worst case scenario. The middle of the Pacific is a battle of flawed teams. Ontario's flaw is that they're still very young and were mistake prone last season. I expect to see progress, but that doesn't guarantee it, especially as LA might want to give extended looks if the Kings aren't as competitive in the middle throes of the season. And obviously Quentin Byfield's not there anymore. So worst case scenario, the Ontario Reign finish with 72 points for a 52.94 points percentage and a 6th place finish in the division with 9 teams and 7 of them making the playoffs. That's still good for a playoff spot.
All right, let's talk most likely case. The model has the Reign projected for 75.04 points for a 55.18 points percentage and a 3rd place divisional finish by an absolute hair above 4th place. I think that's an appropriate place for them, as I think the Black and Silver Bandits and Sparks should provide a quality starting goaltender and progress for the Utes. And that just wasn't in the building last season, even when Grosnick was there, as he looked not great. I think Sparks gave them that boost. We see progress for the Black and Silver Bandits, who run and gun with style. I'm going to take that finish from the model, 55.18 and a 75-ish points, and call it good. 3rd place in the division. I like that, where that lands. Let's call it there. We're going to head to break here. After the break, we will get to the San Diego Gulls and Bakersfield Condors season previews. If you're just here to listen to the Reign, thanks for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from, so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, check us out on social media, where we drop the memes. We're on Facebook and Instagram at the Calder Farmstead, and on Twitter at Calder Farmstead. Facebook, Instagram, the Calder Farmstead. Twitter at Calder Farmstead. We will be right back after we pay some bills to talk San Diego Gulls. Stay tuned.
San Diego. In German, it means a pretty decent AHL market. So let's talk about those San Diego Gulls. We have covered the Ontario Reign, and now it's time to talk Gulls. So San Diego head coach Joel Bouchard coming over from the Laval Rocket in a surprise bench boss move by San Diego. He will be starting his first season this season. Yes. So 2021 record for San Diego, 26-17-1-0. That's a .602 points percentage, good for 3rd out of 7 teams in the Pacific Division last year. Affiliation for 21-22, still going to be the Anaheim Ducks, of course, in the NHL, and still going to be the Tulsa Oilers in the ECHL. Games scheduled, Pacific Division, of course, 68 games. Let's talk additions and subtractions. Additions, Daniel Reagan coming over from the Henderson Silver Knights, Buddy Robinson, Brogan Rafferty, Roman Durney, Morgan Adams-Moyson, Alexander Volkov, and the latest offseason edition, I believe on October 4th, Ben Hutton. Subtractions, Andrew Agazzino, he's heading out. Chase DeLeo, Alex Dostey, Matt Laredo, Andrew Podorowski signing with the Carolina Hurricanes organization, going to be playing for the Wolves, Jeremy Roy, and Andy Walensky. Those are some big names that are departing from San Diego. And let's talk the guys that are sticking around and the new additions with the forwards core. Sean, take it away.
Captain Sam Carrick returns as the Carrick brothers team up for another season in San Diego. Carrick continues to be an offensive weapon. He's got good puck skills and can set a teammate up here and there, but he's a better sniper than anything. He's also a hard worker who doesn't shy away from battling out in the dirty areas. Skating-wise, he's in the ballpark of league average. Defensively, he's above average, but I wouldn't call him a 200-foot player per se. It's hard to imagine anything than another quality season from Sam Carrick, although I do have to point out that father time is probably not a factor yet, but I'm imagining that Sam can start to see him in the rearview mirror. Sonny Milano's game has progressed over the last few seasons, but after an injury-filled 2021 that saw him on the IR at least 3 times, there is at least a question of how healthy he is at this point. Should he be at full health, you should see a very fun, albeit one-dimensional player. Milano has very good puck skills and playmaking vision. He's legitimately dangerous with the puck on his stick. While not the most talented sniper, he has decent shooting talent. He's not a very good skater and could stand to work on his stride, as he's below average in the skating speed department. Defensively, his game is improved where it looks like he plays defense, where in Columbus, he very much looked like an unplugged controller at times. That's improved, but not that much. He's still a quality offensive player who'll be a lock for at least one of the power play units, as he can dish it with the best of them. But if he's out there trying to kill penalties, it means that every other guy is tired. Next, we're going to talk about Vinnie Letteri. It's a shame that fans didn't get to see Letteri in person. He's a lot of fun to watch. He has solid puck skills, and while he has above average playmaking vision, he's a much better shooter. Case in point, he was on a 43-goal pace last season without a ridiculously boosted shooting percentage. He's a decent skater, but he's not a burner. Defensively, he's not great, but he's not terrible either. While I don't think he'll keep up a 43-goal pace this season, close to 30 is very reasonable, especially given how stacked this offense is and how you can easily find a playmaker to just dish him the puck in space. Alex Limoges had a very solid start to his pro career, and I feel like he got better as the season went on. However, I would be derelict in my duties as an AHL analyst if I didn't say that some of his production was from being on a line with guys like DeLeo and Agazzino. That's not to say he's bad, because he's not. I am contractually obligated by our alumni association to love Alex Limoges, but those two leaving town is not the best thing for him. He has a good offensive toolkit, though. He's got capable puck skills, and while he won't be deking around defenders on highlight reels, he has enough to not get stripped of the puck too often and to make plays in tight. He's a capable playmaker, but at times tried to do a bit too much last season. He's an average shooter, albeit he does have a quick release. He does have higher-end shooting qualities, like his ability to use deception and look off goalies like he's going to pass and then rip a shot right past them. He's not a bad skater, and he keeps his feet moving, but he lacks a separation gear that would have aided him in a few moments where he could have forced a breakaway or an odd man rush, but just couldn't turn on the jets. Defensively, he did not look like a high-effort guy on his end, and he looked a bit lost at times trying to process where his assignment was and where he was supposed to be. There were instances of that on offense as well, and that transition from junior to pro, or from college to pro, does that to the best players in the AHL. However, I think with some more playing time, those issues will go away, as he has good but not great underlying skill sets. I think he factors into the middle six this season for the Gulls, unless he finds quality chemistry with line mates higher on the depth chart. He should find power play time, but I'd avoid putting him on the penalty kill for right now. Daniel Reagan comes over from Henderson, where he had a turnaround year after some not great ones in Hartford and Rochester. O'Regan has average puck skills, but had quite a few pass receptions that he took extra time in corralling, which is concerning. His best hockey attribute is his playmaking vision and ability to find teammates in dangerous ice. He's not a great shooter, but he's not a bad one either. He's a solid skater who has high-end elements to his skating, even though his speed is merely above average-ish. Defensively, he's not the best, but I think his defensive game has improved enough at least to be passable. I wouldn't put him on the penalty kill, but he's another that should see top 6 minutes and power play time. 2 quick facts here about Buddy Robinson. His name actually isn't Buddy. It's Charles, but Buddy is a family nickname, and he's also a childhood friend of Johnny Gaudreau, which is strange because he just left the Calgary organization.
I was going to say, yeah.
To be fair, though, it seems like they've been trying to get rid of Johnny Gaudreau themselves for quite some time. Buddy Robinson's game is solid, which is why he's had a few cups of coffee in the NHL. However, it's more 200-foot player than offensive dynamo. He has good puck skills and some shooting talent, but more an ability to finish around the net than mid-range sniping. His skating is problematic as it is for most guys that size. He has good edge work, but lacks even average speed. Defensively, he's been very solid and continues to work hard in his own end, even though being a winger doesn't usually lend itself to being much of a defensively impact player. The problem with his game is that he's defensively minded to a fault, and he could generate more offense if he was less concerned, not just with his defensive efforts, but with never being caught. He won't leave the zone early. He's usually the last guy in the offensive zone, and not all of that is his skating speed. He should be a good counterweight to offensive line mates and a useful forward on both special teams, although given the glut of offensive talent, I could see him being left off power play units. A surprise entry here, as after 8 points in 18 games last season, you would have thought Alexander Volkov did enough to stick with the Ducks. Regardless, Volkov can do it all for the Goals. He has good playmaking skills and high-end playmaking vision. He's got multiple 20-goal seasons in the AHL under his belt and as a shooter, which, that ain't no small feat. His skating is above average as well, which helps him as a relentless forechecker. Defensively, he's no slouch and can run through guys as well as use well-timed stick checks to take the puck off of them. If I had to critique his game, it would be on consistency. He looked at times like he wasn't all there and was just kind of going through the motions in some games, especially after failing to crack the Ducks roster and being unable to stick in Tampa for 2 straight seasons. I could see frustration starting to be a problem for him. Hopefully it isn't, and he balls out as a part of the Gulls' top 6, but I could see that level of frustration keeping him from being, the Alexander Volkov we know and love from previous years, at least early on as he, tries to work through some of that. Perhaps not a season we were hoping for last year from Jacob Perrault, but not a bad one. Jacob Perrault. A player of his shooting talent only scoring 3 goals is concerning, though. I still remain confident that his struggles were more of a teenager playing his first pro season and not a knock on him. Perrault still has exceptional puck skills and can have him dance around defenders. His playmaking vision is above average. However, his calling card is shooting. His ability to shoot off both feet, rip, catch, and fire wristers, and the release on his shot is that quick. Those are hard skills to come by. His skating is a concern, but not so much that I think it holds him back. Defensively, he's not giving you much, and he's not the hardest worker in his own end, and is not very physical. So I would not be trusting him when the puck comes back into the Gulls' defensive end. I believe in his talent, though, and last season was concerning for his ability to put it all together, but I still believe. If he can process the game fast enough at pro speeds and get up to speed, he'll be another dangerous scorer in an already loaded Gulls lineup. Those are all the forwards that we think are going to make an impact, despite the fact that there's still some talent, but we have to cut the line somewhere. We're not going to talk about all 25 players on the roster. But Cece, let's talk the defense. Give me some defenders from San Diego who are going to make an impact this year.
Well, first and foremost, let's talk about former Vancouver Canucks prospect Brogan Rafferty. And Sean and I are in the same boat here in the fact that today we both learned that Rafferty is legally blind in his right eye. And that means 2 things. One, that it's absolutely a testament to his skill as a player to be able to play hockey at this level without the same basic vision that others have in both of their eyes. And 2, he's got the fast track to a post-playing career as a professional hockey referee or linesman, as he's already meeting one of the requirements is that you have to have vision correction to be that. So in all seriousness, though, his ability as a defenseman, Rafferty is nothing short of entertaining to watch. Offensively, he checks a lot of the boxes. He's a smooth skater who joins the rush early and often, as well as lead it. With the puck on his stick, he has the puck skills to make AHL defenders look downright bad. He's incredibly creative as a playmaker and will come off the blue line as a behind-the-play backdoor threat. He's a pretty good shooter as well. If 45 points in 57 games in 1920 weren't evidence enough, he's going to make highlight reels with the goals this season. You can bank on that. Defensively, he's a bit below average. He's not terrible, but he struggles with details and consistency in his own end. I'm completely fine with that, as I'm more than willing to trade defensive reliability for offensive prowess, but I doubt we see him on the PK or in big defensive moments at the end of games. Still, he can create offense like few in the AHL can. He should be the Gulls' number one D-man and a staple on the power play. Brendan Gooley has shown some progress the past few seasons. Offensively, there's a solid skill set, but nothing that's elite. He has average puck skills. He has good vision in transition and makes solid first passes, but isn't as dynamic playmaker in the offensive zone. He has decent shooting talent, and his skating is quite good, though, and he can beat forecheckers with his feet and lead the rush in transition. Defensively, he's good at defending his blue line due to his skating. His in-zone defense has progressed over the last few seasons, but I still wouldn't call it good per se. Overall, he can get the job done on defense and chip in offensively. He's probably best suited to middle pair minutes, but I think he's going to have a bigger ask this season, which isn't the end of the world. Next up, we have Nicolas Brouillard. He had a pretty solid rookie season at 26 years old. Offensively, he has good puck skills, but is not a great playmaker as he gets tunnel vision in the offensive zone and doesn't have a lot of creativity. He has shooting talent, but often blasts pucks from distance, which can work at lower levels of hockey, but you're not going to beat AHL goalies very often with that. Decent speed, but lacks good edge work or agility. He's not the best at defending his blue line because of that. He's decent in his own end, but has some mental lapses. Both he and his partner race towards a loose puck battle, and Brouillard leaves his assignment and in the slot wide open for a moment. He's capable of winning net front battles and grinding forwards along the boards. I think he has more production that can be gleaned from his skill set than he showed last season, but it's going to take mental discipline to break some bad habits to get there. Next up, second to last, we have Jacob Larsson. Larsson's game is almost entirely defense-oriented, as the offensive part of his game have never really seemed to grow. He has average puck skills, and his playmaking vision is decent in transition, but it almost disappears in the offensive zone. He's decent under pressure and can make good first passes to get the breakout going. He, however, is not a shooter. His skating is very good, though, and helps boost his defensive game. He defends his own blue line very well and can make stops in his own end. He is probably a bottom four defenseman who can kill penalties and be reliable, but he's not going to contribute much to the score sheet. Lastly, we have the other Carrick brother, and not as strong a season from the younger Carrick. That's Trevor Carrick, for those playing along at home. And yeah, not as strong a season last season as we would have expected. However, I still like Trevor's game quite a lot. The calling card of his game is mobility and hockey IQ. While not the fastest skater, he can move and will jump in and join the rush, but he has the awareness to do so at the very right times. Defensively, he's solid in his own end and can defend his blue line very well in transition due to his skating. I don't expect him to be playing time over guys like Gooley and Rafferty to be able to produce at a top AHL level, but I think a bounce back year is in the cards for the younger Carrick brother. All right. We've got forwards down. We've got defensemen down. Sean, let's talk about voodoo. Let's talk about the goaltending for the Gulls in 21-22.
I mean, it begins and ends with Lukas Dostell. Dostell isn't the most athletic goaltender, which is concerning given that he's not a large goalie. However, Dostell's game compensates well for that shortcoming. He has excellent movement and tracks the puck extremely well. He finds his angle quickly and gets square to shooters immediately. Despite limited athleticism, his ability to see the play coming allows him to make tough post-to-post saves. His focus was concerning at times as he did let in a few too many goals from distance, but I'm willing to chalk those up to a fluke at this point, given that the rest of his game is pretty strong. Dostell has all the tools to be a high-end starter for the Gulls this season, and given the team in front of him, I think that's a very real possibility. Backing up Dostell should be Ali Eriksson-Ek. A bigger goalie than Dostell, Eriksson-Ek has some potential here. His technical structure is very good, and he finds his angle quickly. His rebound control is also pretty good. Athletically, he's not great as he struggles to make those big explosive movements to make tough saves. I think he'll be a fine backup to Dostell, but I don't think he's ready for big starting moments, as even in last season, he looked a little bit shaky when the Gulls needed him to lock it down. All right, so that is all the positional players we're going to be talking about in our preview here. Let's talk outcomes. CC, what's the best case scenario for this Gulls team?
Well, the best case for San Diego, this is already a loaded team top to bottom. I suppose the best case includes appearances from Drysdale and Zegras, or guys like Limoges and Gould becoming stars. In that case, the Gulls just rip through the Pacific and put up 90 points for a 66.18 points percentage and an AHL regular season championship. Not too shabby at all. Well, as the pendulum swings, we go from best case to worst case. So, Sean, tell us, if the wheels just fall off and everything goes terrible in San Diego, what is the worst case scenario?
I'm truly terrified of making this worst case scenario because it's so ridiculous. If everything goes wrong, injuries, call-ups, the whole team hates Joel Bouchard, there should still be enough talent here to keep things competitive in a tighter Pacific division. Worst case scenario, they finish with 76 points and a 55.8% points percentage and into tiebreakers for third place in the division. That's the worst case scenario I could come up with.
Well, let's talk most likely case. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of pendulum swing between best case and worst case. So let's talk most likely. We've talked a lot about other Pacific Division teams, and it keeps seeming that their ceilings are all about a second place ceiling in the division. And you may ask why? Because San Diego is loaded. It doesn't seem to matter what I do or how much of a boost I give the other teams. They can't unseat the Gulls from the top spot. And you've heard us mention it in previous Pacific Division previews about the best team in the Pacific Division. San Diego is it. The model has them projected for 86 points for a 63.24 points percentage and a division and a regular season title by a fair margin. Someone has to be the preseason favorite, so I have no problem looking at the Gulls roster and saying, yeah, 86 points, lock it up.
Yeah, they are. It's amazing, like trying to play around with the model, like taking players off of rosters, getting a sense of what that does. And it's like, it doesn't matter. Like the Gulls have run away the best team on paper right now, but hockey's not played on paper. But I'm willing to put down bets that the Gulls are the best team in that division come the year end. They are very scary good.
Especially if you get Drysdale and Zegras back at certain points in the year. It's like, holy hell.
It's amazing that they managed to have like Agazino gone, DeLeo gone, Podorowski gone. And yet it's like, no, that doesn't matter. They're still stupid good. And that's not even considering, like, should Perrault take steps forward? That's not a fact that we didn't factor that into their most likely. Yeah. Anyway, we're rambling here. We're going to take a break. And after the break, we will get to our last team of the season to preview the Bakersfield Condors. If you are just here for San Diego season preview, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, check us out on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram at the Calder Farmstead, on Twitter at Calder Farmstead. We will be right back talking Bakersfield Condors, formerly the Kingslayer. Stay tuned.
We've made it down to our last team in the Pacific Division and our last team that we are going to be previewing for the 2021-22 regular season in the American Hockey League. And that is the Bakersfield Condors. So let's talk Condors. Head coach Jay Woodcroft entering his fourth season with the club. 2021 record 24-14-0-1. That was good for a .628 points percentage. That was second of 7 in the Pacific Division, but they played through the wonky Pacific Division playoff format, and hell, they messed around and won themselves a divisional championship. So congratulations to Bakersfield on that. Affiliation for 21-22, still going to be Edmonton up in the NHL and still going to be the Wichita Thunder down in the ECHL. It's the Pacific Division. Once again, game scheduled. It's going to be 68 until next season. Additions to the club: Matteo Gennaro, Kirill Maximov, Tim Soderlin, Phillip Berglund, Phillip Broberg, Dmitry Samurakov. There we go. Dmitry Samurakov, Ilya Konovalov, and Tim Schaller. Konovalov. Ilya Konovalov. Did I say that right, Shawnee?
That's how I've been saying it.
Konovalov.
We don't have a pronunciation from elite prospects, and trying to listen to KHL video to hear his name is really not a useful tool.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll go with Konovalov. So let's talk subtractions. Liam Folks was traded for that wonderful prospect future considerations this offseason. Joe Gambardella, Alan Quine heading over to the Henderson Silver Knights, Jakob Stukel, Max Gilden, Kevin Gravel, Yanis Yaks, Ryan Stanton, Theodore Lindstrom, and Blake Christensen, all heading out of the Bakersfield Condors and probably Edmonton pipeline as well. All right, let's move ahead to forwards and the forwards core for Bakersfield this upcoming season. Editor's note, Dylan Holloway started the season on IR with wrist surgery. He will be out until around the holidays. He still might make Edmonton after that, but he is left out of our preview for that reason. So first and foremost, we would be remiss if we did not start with Cooper Maroti, our 2021 Best Forward Award winner. Cooper Maroti is the only member of the Kingslayers kid line to return to Bakersfield this year. And despite his goal totals outpacing assists for the first time in his career, dating back to high school, Maroti's game is more of a pass first than a shooting one. He's a creative passer and has a variety of ways to set up teammates up in space. As a shooter, he hit higher goal totals this year as he was better able to find soft ice in the slot and had teammates like Benson and McLeod set him up while he was in those dangerous areas. Maroti's primary concern is his skating. He skates very wide and his stride isn't as technically sound as you'd like a guy to have. Overall, well, I'll tell you, defensively, let's start there. Maroti doesn't do a whole lot and won't be someone you'll see kill penalties or in the closing minutes of games, as he's rather passive in his own end. Overall, Maroti is a top playmaker in the AHL and will likely continue to be this season for the Condors. Next up, we've got Brad Malone. Malone is still capable of playing AHL hockey at 32 because of his very good hockey IQ. He pairs that with good puck skills and playmaking vision. I wouldn't call him a shooter, however, but he's adept at finding soft ice in the slot and timing movements to get away from defenders when a passing lane opens up. His skating is a drawback, though. He's not slow per se, but he lacks the ability to play with pace. Defensively, he's solid and an asset as a penalty killer. I'm hoping he gets a call up to Edmonton to play exactly one game this season, as he has 199 NHL games in his career, and I'd like to see him get 200. Why not round that number off? That seems unlikely, so he'll have to stick it out and do it all as a top six center for the Condors this season. Adam Cracknell. In a Venn diagram of Cracknell and Brad Malone's game, there is a lot of overlap. Cracknell has a lot of the same offensive skills as Malone does, and I'd say Cracknell has better hands and tight and is more physical. He's a little more capable around the net as well and getting to those rebounds. He's a bit better of a shooter too, but he's a lot slower than Brad Malone though. He's also not as useful defensively, and it's not for a lack of effort, but rather a lack of detail and awareness when his assignment is away from the play and he's more prone to floating and puck watching. Still, Cracknell has been at this a long time and continues to be, as he has an offensive talent and can shoot. He'll find power play time and a middle six role in Bakersfield this season. Next, we have Seth Griffith, and Griffith has an above average skill set in the offensive zone. He has good puck skills and playmaking vision. He's a solid shooter. However, he is rather passive in the offensive zone when he doesn't have the puck and doesn't often try to become an active threat and just kind of hangs out. This explains his hot and cold tendencies as a scorer and something that he should definitely work on. Defensively, he's a bare minimum kind of guy and doesn't like to get his hands dirty that often in his own zone. He'll be somewhere in the middle six for the Condors this season, and he'll definitely get some power play time. Rafael Lavoy, his signature skill is shot velocity, not accuracy, not a quick release. Like a closing pitcher in baseball, he's all about throwing the fastball. That's not to say his shot is all velocity and no accuracy, although his accuracy is not the best. He sets his shots up well with deception and angle changes and then brings the heat. He also uses the threat of his shot to open up passing lanes for defenders who stupidly try to block it. He's also good at finding soft ice and ripping Austin Matthews-like catch and release wristers. Lavoy's skating is a weakness, though, and while it wasn't a problem in juniors, it's becoming more of a problem now as he's not able to keep up in transition and is late to plays where he's the trailer and he can let a bomb go off in the rush. Next, we have Kirill Maximov. Maximov has struggled the past 2 seasons trying to translate the game he played in juniors to the pro ranks. Story as old as time. Yeah, hard to make that transition for sure. He's got good puck skills, but lacks the playmaking vision and hockey IQ to see the bigger picture on ice. His biggest calling card is his shooting talent. He can rip shots better than most. He's physical and strong, but has struggled to make that an asset in his previous stint in Bakersfield or in the KHL like it was in his junior days, where he could just put his shoulder down and drive to the net or win battles down low. Skating-wise, he's not good and is a very upright skater. Defensively, he's solid and is a capable shot blocker and is proactive at taking away passing options in the defensive zone. It's hard to say where he falls in the depth chart in Bakersfield, but I think he could have a value pairing with faster skating line mates who can carry the puck through the neutral zone and let him set up down low. Defensively, he's decent. Physically, he's physical when he needs to be, but he typically avoids those bad penalties. Those are the people that we decided to highlight in the forwards core. Let's talk defense. Let's talk blue liners. Let's talk that with Sean.
We got to start off with Markus Niemelainen, whose game is rather easy to describe. It's mostly defensive. He's not going to do a bunch on offense. Him finding the score sheet feels like a Bob Ross tree, that it can just be, it's a happy little accident. That's not to say he doesn't have offensive skills, although his offensive skill set is average on a good day. He's just very conservative in his puck management and isn't going to do fun things like leave the blue line during the offensive zone cycle or join the rush. His skating isn't bad either, although he's never going to be mistaken for a speedster. He has good edge work and is mobile, but again, he's not someone who's going to try and join the rush very often. But his good skating helps him defend his blue line, and he does so in a very above average fashion. In zone defensively, he's big and mean in the corners and in the net front, but also has good awareness and knows how to play physically without hurting his team with a penalty. He's someone I'd look to pair on the second pair with a good offensive risk taker to bring the balance to the pairing. I liked what I saw from Yanni Kaldis' game a lot last season. He has above average puck skills and a good hockey IQ. He's an above average skater whose stride is very smooth. He uses that skating to either join the rush or lead it effectively. He's not afraid to come off the blue line during offensive zone cycles and try to be a shooting threat in the slot. Shooting talent-wise, though, he's not great, but because he gets to good areas to shoot from, that definitely benefits him from his chances to put a puck in the net. His playmaking vision in the offensive zone leaves room for improvement, as oftentimes cross-ice passing lanes need to be large enough to drive an F-150 through for him to be able to find them. Defensively, he's okay and uses brains rather than brawn to defend. I don't think he'll ever light the score sheet up, but I think top 4 production is not out of the reach with his skill set, if he occasionally gets some power play time. Phil Kemp's offensive skill set is also pretty limited. He does have good puck skills, and his playmaking vision seems permanently set in safety mode, in that he'll go glassing out or rim it around before trying to find a forward in the neutral zone. Kemp's value is in defending, as he skates well and can close off plays in the neutral zone. In the zone, he can be physical as well as use his stick to break up plays. He's best left, though, as a penalty killer and stapled to an offense-first risk taker for a D partner. We have to talk about the big prospect for Edmonton that I feel like I've been hearing about for years. He finally makes his way to the Condors, and that's Phillip Broberg. Guys that are Broberg size shouldn't be able to skate like Broberg. It's just not fair, and that's always what's been tantalizing about watching him. However, he's failed to turn that size and skating combination paired with good puck skills and shooting talent into consistent high-end production. A lot of that seems from his it's from his ability to put it all together. Some of that which is due to his hockey IQ, which underwhelms, and some of that is due to his lack of attention to detail. This is no more true than when it comes to his ability as a defender. He struggles to turn solid skating into capable defense of his blue line in transition. He's physical, but isn't the most adept at winning net front battles. He'll also focus so much on his defensive assignment that he'll miss the forest for the trees, so to speak. There's no way around it. Broberg is in Bakersfield because he needs to work on his game and develop. There's a lot of raw talent here, and I think he's got enough going for him that he should be a useful top 4 defenseman for them at minimum, but he has a lot of raw ingredients that aren't yet a cake. Hopefully in Bakersfield, he can help bake that cake.
Bakersfield that cake? Yeah, there you go.
Phillip Broberg is an intriguing defenseman. He's got size, but more importantly, he has power. I can say he has power because his mechanics are awkward, but he makes them work through sheer force. Which mechanics am I talking about? Skating? Shooting? The answer is yes. His slap shot is just awkward to look at, but he continues to blast one-timers with velocity despite just goofy-looking mechanics. His wrist shot is similar, where it doesn't look like he gets any flex from the shaft of the stick, but he still just hurls it on net. His skating is clunky, but he manages to be mobile in spite of it. He has a good hockey IQ and solid playmaking vision, which helps him offensively, but some refining here would go a very long way. Defensively, he's solid and mean, but doesn't end up in the box very often. I think he'll probably see limited power play time and some in the bottom 4 somewhere, but I will say, if he can get some more mechanically sound shooting and skating mechanics in place, he will be a much improved defenseman. Like, if you were telling me at the end of the season that your like most improved player on Bakersfield was Phillip Broberg, I'd believe you. The raw skills are there. It's just a matter of, can he put them together and can he fix those mechanics to be useful? Because he has a stupid amount of power for a guy that's still somewhat efficient.
Reminds me of talking about Alex Bokaj with the Colorado Eagles. You know, he can just power through his wonky mechanics, and that'll only get you so far, unfortunately. And so hopefully both of these guys, Berglund and Bokaj, can shore that up, because they'll both be great players if they can do that.
It's like a big engine on crappy tires.
That's a very apt comparison. I like that.
And that is all of our defensemen that we want to talk about. We want to go over to goalies, but I am not going to let CC cover Stuart Skinner because that would be unfair.
Hey, go ahead. I yield the floor.
Yeah, it's borderline inappropriate to have you talk about Moonshine when I've clearly been the hardest on him of the two of us.
That's fair. That's completely fair.
For those who are unaware, I nicknamed Stuart Skinner Moonshine because starting him in net is like running your car on moonshine. Yes, it may work for a while, but you have to know that long-term, this isn't the answer to your problem. Is that mean? Probably. Is it completely unwarranted? I would argue no. Now, Skinner has good qualities to his game. He has an above-average frame and has good athleticism. At times last year, he looked good and was able to string together solid performances. Do I think he's a bad goalie? No. But I don't trust him. Here's why. I think his movement in net is often including extra pieces in it. He's prone to overshooting his angles, trying to get square to shooters, especially laterally. I think his puck tracking is inconsistent at best. So, how did he have so much success last season? My viewing of Condors games last season showed me a very good defensive structure in front of him. They rarely allowed quality scoring chances, odd man rushes. They won battles in front and cleared away bad rebounds with remarkable efficiency. Goaltending efficiency isn't just how good your goalie is. It's about the environment in front of them too. Ryan Stanton, Kevin Gravel, Max Gilden were a big part of the environment in front of him last season. Not on the roster for the Condors this year, Ryan Stanton, Kevin Gravel, Max Gilden. I think Skinner could easily regress without that dominant defensive system in front of him, as well as another goalie in the room who I think may be more impressive and be more of a focus for the Condors this year to develop. Cece, tell me about Ilya Konovalov.
I'm trying to say it with a Russian accent to maybe sound it out better. Yes, a lot of hype around Konovalov. In 111 career games in the KHL, he has a .922 save percentage. For what's arguably the third best league in the world, that is damn impressive. The biggest knock against Konovalov is his size. You can count on one shop teacher's hand the number of quality goaltending prospects who are under 6 feet tall. He also plays with a compact stance, which isn't ideal. If you're that small, you want to make yourself look big, and a compact stance is not going to do it. However, if you're going to be a smaller goalie, or if you're going to be smaller as a goalie, you need to have high-end athleticism and be able to explode post to post and make tough saves. I think Konovalov has that ability. He's a very aggressive goalie who's not afraid to get out of the top of the crease. He can play the puck at a high level, and that will help defensemen with dump-ins and clearing attempts often. As with any young player coming to North America for the first time, I think he could struggle at first, but he's going to be an exciting goalie for the Condors this season and should carve out a valuable role as part of a tandem with Skinner. All right, so those are the goaltenders for Bakersfield. Let's talk about the overall outcomes, and we'll start with Sean. We'll start with the best case scenario.
I mean, best case is Konovalov absolutely balls out, and so does Broberg. Griffin, Malone, Cracknell fill in the gaps, and Edmonton doesn't take anyone for extended periods on a Canadian vacation. If all that goes well for the Condors, they finish with 74 points for a 54.41 points percentage and are into tiebreakers for third in the division.
A lot of those tiebreakers there in the middle. That's for sure.
Yeah, and we're not trying to project who wins tiebreakers in the evidence of a tie at 54.41. That's a little too fine-grained even for us. CC, talk to me about worst case.
Worst case scenario for the Condors. If the wheels fall off here, it's going to be because the depth scoring and defense aren't where they need to be, plus the usual injuries and call-ups to Edmonton. The middle of the Pacific is tight, and if you have a bad stretch or two, it's going to be very hard to make that ground up. Worst case scenario for the Condors is 63 points for a 46.32 points percentage and last in the 9-team Pacific Division. Guess what? That's not a playoff spot. All right, let's balance it here. Pendulum swing, spectrum. Let's find some sort of middle ground with Bakersfield. Let's talk the most likely scenario from Shawnee's model and from our opinion.
Unshockingly, the model is not a huge fan of the Condors roster that lost Benson, McLeod, Gilden, and other important depth pieces. It's not as high on Broberg either. It projects Bakersfield for 67 points and a 49.26% points percentage for an 8th place finish in the division. While I agree that there's concern over the pieces that left, I'm a bit more bullish on the Condors this season, and I will take them with a bump to 70 points for a 51.47% points percentage. Because I think Broberg's better than that. I think they'll get some better goaltending. I think you can make an argument for bigger steps forward for their depth scorers like Griffith and Lavoy. So I'm going to give them 70 points and a 51.47% points percentage.
And I think that's fair. I mean, especially when you have the defensive presence that Skinner benefited from last season. That's gone. And then you've also got the rookie Konovalov coming in. Yeah, that's going to be an adjustment for sure.
All right, well, CC, start our outro because that's all there was.
Ah, yes, that is very true. 31 out of 31 teams. We're done. We have finished our season previews here at the Calder Farmstead, and just in the nick of time because these guys are going to be playing their first game tonight on the 16th as we record this. So that's it. That's it for the show. Thank you for watching and or listening. The Calder Farmstead is part of the Full Press Radio Network. You can listen to this and a number of other great hockey, sports, and sports entertainment programs at www.fullpresscoverage.com. Just click the podcast drop-down menu on the bottom, at the top right portion of the website. Click it and just you see all the podcasts there. Enjoy to your heart's content, but hey, I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you for choosing the Calder Farmstead to spend your time with and to, with all those choices, you spend it with us. We appreciate it.
And if you guys are enjoying the Calder Farmstead, please make sure to subscribe so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review the podcast. Or if you're watching it on YouTube, like the video and comment what you thought of the episode. Doing so helps others find the show, and your reviews help us improve it. You can also follow the show on social media at Calder Farmstead on Twitter and at The Calder Farmstead on Instagram and Facebook. Big thanks to Adrian Drake, who made our theme music. You can find him on social media at AD_dysfunction. That's DYSFUNCTION, so we can make music for you too. Cece, where can people find you?
Well, once again, my name is CC Hockley, and you can find me representing Full Press Hockey on Twitter at FPC_AHL, and at my personal Twitter handle, that is at CC Hawk. That's SEESEEHAWK. I'm a big fan of the rock band Rush, so you may see me retweeting stuff there. I like pro wrestling. I like music in general. I like a bunch of different things. So hopefully, if it keeps me interested, it's not going to be bullshit for you. Check out my writing on the Full Press Coverage Network at www.fullpresshockey.com. Shawnee, where can the people find you?
I'm Sean O'Brien, and you can find me on Twitter at Sean O'Brien81. That's SeanObrien 81. I'm also on Instagram at Sean O'Brien _81. So check me out on those places. Or don't. I don't know your life. You can find my stats work at Tableau at bit.ly/data dump and chase, all lowercase, all one word. CC, take us home.
That will do it for episode number 55 of the Calder Farmstead, as Sean pushes away his mic and inhales a deep breath and exhales very much a breath of relief because 31 teams, 31 previews, we are done. For Sean O'Brien, I'm CC Hockley. Thank you for tuning in to the Calder Farmstead, as always. And one more time before we jump into the 21-22 season, keep your stick on the ice.